Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Gilliland. I'm the chair of the Sea Scout Marketing and Communications Subcommittee. We are going to wait a second for people to log in since we had over 160 people registered tonight. And we are watching the numbers of participants climb. So we're just hit 40 and rising. So I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight to discuss this great topic. We have some dynamic speakers who have a very rich Sea Scout history, and we're going to discuss the importance of recruiting and some best practices for recruiting. So we are, looks like we're holding right now. So it's go time, ladies and gentlemen. First up, I want to introduce our National Commodore, Ben Farrell, who's going to share what we are doing and why the big focus on recruiting right now. Ben, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Josh. And I want to welcome everybody who has dialed in and joined us for this webinar. And as we're moving forward in the scouting program, there's this big emphasis on growth, which means that we would like to see if we could recruit as many age-appropriate youth members into our Sea Scout program. And going into my first month as the National Commodore and working with Jewel Norris, our National Bosun, we came up with some goals for growth and development as we move forward. Also, in working with our national Chief Scout Executive, Roger Mosby. So briefly, what we hope to achieve over a period of time is build up our membership to 5,000 youth members. And we would like to see if we can establish a Sea Scoutship in every council in the nation. The Sea Scout program is a vibrant, exciting, high adventure aspect of the BSA, where many of our young folks in a co-ed environment get to develop their leadership and character development program. But not only that, have fun on the water, under the water, over the water, hiking, shooting, and the whole 9 yards. And many of our youth members have gone on to successful maritime careers, and many others have developed the leadership and character development skills also to pursue other aspects of their life in their chosen profession. So, but in the meantime, the Sea Scout program needs you to help us grow. And hopefully this webinar will provide you with some additional information and tools to help us achieve that 5,000 member goal and that one ship per council goal. So with that, let me turn it over back to Josh. And we look forward to your questions and your engagement during this webinar. And once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ben. This is a lot of fun to actually talk about recruiting and some best practices for recruiting. So I just put up a poll for everyone on, do you back to school recruiting? And this is just so we can get to know our audience as we begin the webinar to see who actually does back to school recruiting. And we'll have these throughout the material so we can talk more about what we do to help youth. Now, we're all here for one big reason. We believe in scouting. Our flavor of scouting is Sea Scouts. Society's had a rough 2.5 years, and youth today need positive activities. So we've asked skippers of 2 highly successful Sea Scout ships to share their tips and best practices for what they do for recruiting. Now, we're going to get into all of this fun topic and ways to engage the community. But right now, I am going to let people continue answering questions just for a couple more seconds, and then we will begin the material. And end this right now. All right, so 79% of respondents do a back to school recruiting of some kind. Now we'll talk about the kinds of methods that we have throughout this material, and we want to hear from you from what you do, and that's going to be the next. So with that, Jason, are you ready?
I am. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Jason Lawrence. I'm a skipper of the Sea Scout ship Griffin. I've been in scouting my whole life, since a cub, through Boy Scouts, now Sea Scouts, and leading Sea Scouts. It's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot along the way. I have a degree in marketing and communications, so putting together a plan for my ship was one of the first things I wanted to do in giving back to the program, and that'll be my my primary focus for you guys today.
Thank you, Jason. As we introduce the material, let's talk about why we're doing this. So the call to action that Ben shared with us tonight is to hit 5,000 Sea Scouts by 2024. So that means we need to recruit and start new ships. So we know the score. There are 2,995 Sea Scouts in the country as of June 1. So we'll get how many joined in the month of June by the end of the month. And we've had 15 new Sea Scout ships over the past 6 months. It's worth noting there's no magic wand for recruiting, but Jason and Tamara are going to share some of the best practices to go out there and start recruiting activities to bring new youth in. So back to you, Jason.
Hi again, you know me. So the first step for trying to get potential recruits or get people interested in your program is understanding who your audience is. Anytime you're trying to reach out to people, you need to know who it is you're trying to reach out to. The reason this is important is because it changes the way you're going to message those people. If your messaging does not resonate with that person or does not cater to the way they wish to receive information, then it's useless to them. Josh, if you want to go back, stay on this parent slide for a moment. So currently, parents is focused at Generation X. So, that's, you can see the age range there, or the years of birth. Some of the things you want to think about are how they wish to receive information. So it's not just the platform that you're going to be sending information out, but also what kind of information to put up there. Clearly, if someone just wants the facts and wants to hear the bottom line, they don't want to hear, 2 paragraphs full of information. You need to break it down into bullet points and put a strong headline in there that says exactly what you're trying to get forward to them. Likewise, so you have to focus on parents in order to get teenagers, because teenagers generally aren't going to be looking for this information on their own. However, once the parents have found that information, there needs to be additional information that's then targeting at those teenagers, those youth. Youth receive information differently than their parents. And if you look at Gen Z today, anyone born after 2002, they're learning from the experience of millennials before them. Technology is like technology first in their world. Orderly and structured is how they like to see things, how they like to receive things. And they are looking for things that are high self-esteem, positive attitude, and they have a determination to matter in the world. So those are things you can focus on. And getting your messaging right is really important, because that's the front door. If you can get them through the door, then it's easy to sell the program. But what we're talking about is just trying to get them to that door and get them to walk through it. Next slide, please. So we'll talk about building your brand. And your brand is really important. We'll just stay on this slide for a moment, Josh. Building your brand is important because you want everything to come across the same way, no matter what platform they're looking at the information on, no matter where they receive that information, no matter who they talk to. So things that help with this are coming up with obviously your ship's logo, the color your ship likes to, wear, and what goes on website and all that. That's obvious things with brand. But other things that go with your brand are like a mission and vision statement. What is it your ship or unit is planning to do to stand out from the rest? And that brand is what's going to resonate through all of your messaging going forward. So let's talk about what messaging looks like. Let's go to the next slide, please. So your ship's website can be a core place, a location for a lot of the information that you're trying to disseminate out. Sometimes people might know this as a hub and spoke model. So at the hub of a wheel, if you think like an old wagon wheel, at the hub, that's the central location of everything, right? So your website becomes that hub where all the information that you want to send out is available. But then off of that becomes the spokes. The spokes reach out into different areas. And different social media platforms have different audiences. Different newsletters have different audiences. So based on which audience you're reaching out to, you can choose the right messaging for that audience. So again, your website's important. You're going to make sure your brand is obvious. So again, your ship's logo, make sure you're calling out you're part of Sea Scouting. Try to leverage similar color palettes for other things that you do off of your website. That way, every time someone sees your content, sees your information, it's clearly from the same source. If they see different colors, different things, they might not understand that you're part of the same unit. Next slide, please. Another core or another really important thing is now that you've gotten someone interested and you've talked to them through email, phone, or some other media source, once you've convinced them it's something of interest for them to check out, or maybe even before that, they want to know where you are, how to find you, how to get to you. So having your ship's location, the meeting location for it, on Google Maps is pretty important, actually, because as we move into this technology first world, people are going to want to find this information, and the expectations of your audience are that you are running this program like it's a business. And I don't know about you, but when I'm looking for a good restaurant to eat at, I go to Google Maps, maybe I go to Grubhub, but even on Google Maps, I can search, find a restaurant, find photos of the food, I can find how to get to it, I can find times that it's busy. It's a powerful platform to learn about a business. So finding a Sea Scout unit and knowing where they meet, knowing more about the program by the photos and things that are posted there. And I've even had past members review our program on Google Maps. So you can see reviews from previous crew members and previous parents that talk about the program, which is kind of neat. So how do I do that? Next slide, please. It's not too difficult. As it turns out, one of the most difficult parts is just making sure that the location is accurate. So once you've found the location you wish to tag as your meeting location, you can follow the steps here, but Google Maps, you basically just right click and you say add a missing place. You type out the name, you submit a form, and it will be reviewed. Once that form's reviewed, you can put in that you are the owner of that business. Now, here's where I'm going to talk about how do you manage all the access to these things. You have a website, maybe a mailing list, Google Maps, business or business storefront, your social media platforms. I highly recommend creating a separate email account or separate account within your domain server that is leveraged for logging into these services. So you can make something as simple as admin@sssgriffin.com, or sorry, .org is our website. Or it could, it could be anything. It could be media specialist at, but you want that email to be not your own personal Gmail. The reason is, at some point, you may not be part of this program anymore, and you need to be able to hand that off. And if it can be an email that lasts and survives with that program, then it's a lot easier to hand off and a lot easier to pass down over time. So now that you've established that your business has a location, you now own that business through Google, you can set up all of the information about that program. You can say the meeting location, website, phone number. You can even put hours that you guys usually meet. There's a lot of really cool information that can go into that. Now let's talk about social media. So again, this is another spoke, right? Google Maps is one spoke where you put information out. Let's talk about Instagram. Okay, again, using that same email account to set up your Instagram account. You can set up your own Instagram account for your ship. What's nice about Instagram is you can actually have multiple profiles on the same phone. So using your phone with your own personal Instagram account, you can have a separate one that is your ship's Instagram account. What you get to do with that is, again, build out your brand. Bring in some of that messaging from your website. Have some taglines that you're going to continue to use. And even if you are creative, you can start to build out some of your own hashtags and leverage those for people to see more and more of your content. One of the things you want to make sure to do is switch this into a business profile. One of the benefits of a business profile is you can run ads and run ads to get your information out, and you get validated, so you're actually a legitimate business within Instagram. So there's never going to be any worries about you being a spam account or being reported for misuse, unless of course something bad goes on. But I highly recommend creating the Instagram account. And next slide, please. You can also create a page on Facebook. So again, let's talk about audience, right? So Instagram is a better media source for reaching younger audiences. Facebook is going to be where you're going to be reaching some of the Gen X and millennials, because they're still on that platform. A lot of Gen Zs, they want nothing to do with it. But this is a great place to put that information that's relevant to parents. And it's also a place where you can have information that those parents can then share with their youth. So create that Facebook fan page. It allows people to like and follow the page so they can continue to get the content. And you can have a call to action that is either contact us, or maybe you're running a donation campaign. You can change that call to action to say donate, or you could change it to sign up now. You can do a lot of different things with these platforms, which is great. Next slide, please. Another media or content platform you can use is YouTube. One thing that is beneficial with YouTube is YouTube links you can put on your website. You can send people to them from your Instagram account. You can create essentially a video that talks about your program and why it stands out, why it is wonderful, and why people should jump in and enroll with it. You can also leverage some of the videos that Sea Scouts BSA YouTube channel has for some of your recruiting and other information. Now, you can take all of these things and use Google AdWords, which is an ad platform that Google produces, and you can create a promotion or an ad in Google search that will bring up your YouTube channel or your Facebook or your Instagram, or maybe, again, your hub is your website. Send them to your website. Your website becomes that hub where they can spoke off into different media sources and learn more about you, and they consume all that content. And then ideally, they're all the way through that front door and they're starting to enroll. Let's talk about enrollment though. Enrollment's a whole other thing. So you can do all this through BSA's tool, which is bscout.org. And you can send parents or potential recruits off to bscout.org, where they fill out information or a questionnaire that says, I'm interested in this program. And you'll get a message through Be a Scout and a notification in your own email that says, you have a potential recruit. Please reach out and contact them. So if you log into, there's two different URLs. Josh, can you remind me which URL is it for managing your Be a Scout pin?
Sorry, I have to commute and to share that, but it's my.scout.org.
Thank you.
Is the way that you can go in and change your pin.
Thank you. Yeah, so my.scouting.org, you go on there, in the top left corner, you can find your unit pin management. That's where you fill out this information. The screen that's on the left here is the information about your program and the information that would be displayed like you see on the right. So you have the information about my program on the left-hand side, but the information about the Intrepid, which is another program down here in California, that is on the right-hand side. So what a customer or your interested party would see is what's on the right. And so they can see the Intrepid is the unit. They can see that they meet at the Elks Lodge that is local to them. They can see the name of the person they're contacting. They can have a phone number to contact them or contact them through the website. Requesting more information gives them the form to fill out where they can send you as, or in this case, it's Max, information about them and why they're interested in your program. So that is my spiel today about recruiting and getting your brand out there.
Thank you, Jason. That was excellent. Let's take the time to do another poll before we have Skipper Sokolov speak. So the next poll is back to school recruiting strategies. And what do you do in your Sea Scout ship? Do you just focus on peer-to-peer recruiting, council newsletter announcements, press releases in local publications, Facebook geofencing, Instagram geofencing, announcements on Nextdoor, flyers in high school, whether it's digital or print, posters on community boards, libraries, coffee shops, to use Google AdWords. There is lots of different options for being able to get the word out about open houses. So with that said, we have people still answering questions, so I want to give them time to respond, but you can definitely see that there's a lot of activities here. So with that, while those are coming up tomorrow, if you want to share your screen, we can get you ready to present. And in just a couple seconds, I want to close this poll, and that way it will all be you. So I am ending the poll right now and going to share the results. A lot of people who responded to focus on peer-to-peer recruiting. Council newsletters came in second, and that was at 35% of those who responded. Press releases only at 8%. Facebook geofencing, 22%. Instagram geofencing, 11%. Nextdoor, also 11%. Flyers in high schools at 22%. That's excellent to see. And posters in community boards. If you like go into a Starbucks, you can just put one up. A lot of libraries and the teen centers allow those as well. 32%. Google AdWords, 0%. So that could be something that we can focus on in a future webinar on how to do that. So with that, Tamara, take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Well, I hate to follow the guy who does marketing for a living because I am not a public speaker, but hello, everyone. I am Tamara Sokolov, skipper of Sea Scout Ship Viking out of San Francisco. I'm going to talk a bit about how we organize our open houses and why we found that this is the best method of recruitment for us. You know, Jason talked a lot about marketing, but we do all of those things. I've actually learned a lot from him, but I think that our big annual push has been really successful for us. And I hope that some of my tips will be helpful to all of you. We all struggle with getting interested 14 and 15-year-olds. I think they're often either overscheduled or apathetic towards new activities. But by throwing a large-scale open house, we generate a lot of energy around a single event for all ages and for the community. So it's not just a recruiting event for this season's batch of recruits, but also a way to get the word out to potential donors, schools, younger future members, council officials, and potential volunteers. So I'm going to break down our open house planning into 5 stages. The first is selecting the right date, then soliciting help, promoting the open house, hosting the actual open house, and then following up. I'm breaking it down this way to illustrate that the actual execution of the event is not where all the effort lies, and that the successful outcome of an open house is dependent on planning, personnel, and through follow-up after the fact. First, finding the right date that sets you up for success is important. Pick a date that makes sense for your group. We usually do a date that's a couple of weeks into the school year so that we have time to promote the event at schools, but it's early enough in the fall that potential scouts don't have their plates too full. We also make sure that we carefully plan other activities around the open house. So the week beforehand, we have a weekend of setting up where we clean up and decorate our Sea Scout base, set up some displays. The kids put together a bunch of great poster boards, and we make sure that our boats and life jackets are all in, prime presentable condition for our guests. We then make sure that the weekend after the open house has a fun but relatively normal activity planned so that anyone joining gets a better sense of what Sea Scouting really is like after the excitement of an open house. And finally, we make sure that we have a trip or special event or activity on the horizon within a month of the open house that will really solidify a new member's feeling of belonging in the ship. This can just be a short weekend trip to a scout camp or something like a safety at sea event. But it's often the case that an overnight trip kind of creates a bond within the crew and is the easiest way to make sure a new member feels like really part of the ship. Then we plan the open house. We solicit all of our volunteers. We make this an all hands required activity for both our scouts and their parents. We have parents on hand to help out with a barbecue, greeting guests, man our info booth for potential parents, get help signing people up for different sailing times, assist with life jackets, etc. Our newer scouts that are kind of less skilled often help with activities for younger kids, while the more experienced scouts can help with sails, kayaks, and rowing. If any parents can't help out on the day, we often have them help out with grocery shopping beforehand, helping with the setup weekend, baking cookies, or promoting the event itself. For the actual promotion, we do a lot of what Jason already talked about. We promote this event in a number of ways, but I think the most important piece of our promotion is that we have some way of gathering all the data of who's interested in the event. We use a website called Splash That for this. There are a number of different tools you could use, and I'll come back to what we do with Splash That in our next slide. We try to reach as many forums as possible through Nextdoor, Facebook, and a site we have called Fun Cheap SF. In Josh's poll a moment ago, like community poster boards and stuff rated as a pretty high way that people do their promotion. All of these online forums are the new library community outreach cork boards. So this is a really important tool. So Fun Cheap SF is a weekly digest blog that advertises cheap or free local events. I'm sure there's similar websites like that in most areas. We also get published in our local free boating magazine called Latitude 38 every time we have an open house. So just reaching out to any potential partners like that is a really good tool. I would say our biggest outreach effort is through schools though. We create flyers using a tool called Canva, get it approved through the school's public school distribution method. We have a little online form we have to do. And that automatically gets it published on school calendars for community events. But then I take it a step further and I pull every email address of teachers from 6th through 10th grade in the school district and blast my flyer out to them in a BCC'd email. This annoys some of them. I'm not going to lie, I get some angry emails back, but there have been a handful of teachers who have now become regular partners with us and share our open house flyer with their students and parents annually. Some have even wanted to plan field trips to our program with their whole class. So it's been pretty fruitful ultimately. Going back to Splash That, this is, as I was saying, it's really important to collect info on potential attendees so that we can, know how many people to expect, have contact info to follow up with them, and we can get a sense of what efforts have been most valuable for our recruitment drives. For example, after doing this for a few years, I now know that Fun Cheap SF, schools, and Nextdoor are our main ways of reaching people. Splash That is a free service that allows you to create kind of a slick landing page. If you go to cscouttest.splashthat.com, you'll kind of see what my open house flyer usually looks like there. But it gives you plenty of options for what kind of info you can collect. So I like to collect, for example, the age and name of guests, the emails of parents, and I have a field where they can tell me where they heard about the open house. As you get closer to the date, you can export all the results, send reminder emails, send follow-up emails, and so on. I actually keep this list year after year. So, I now go back to my 2018 open house list and sort it by age and find that demographic that would be turning 14 this year. And I email them a reminder about joining now. So that has kind of paid forward. We used to host first timer recruiting events. I think many of you kind of talk about first, back to school recruiting days where it's word of mouth, bring a friend, that sort of thing. And that's targeted for just Sea Scouting aged youth with very limited success on our part. We found that by doing a family open house, we have much greater success recruiting. It's easier for the parents to say, hey, we're all going down to this place and we're going to spend half an hour there, and to send the older youth out sailing while the rest of the family is there doing other activities. So we pick activities that work for us, pick activities that work for you, but for us, we do 15 to 20-minute sails, rowing excursions, kayaking in our harbor for kids that are Sea Scout aged or close to Sea Scout aged. And then we also have a number of arts and crafts, cookie decorating, a rain gutter regatta set up for younger children. And then in our meeting room, we have a whole setup of displays on leadership development, cruising, competition, etc. At some tables manned by our most outgoing parents who can really sell the program to other parents. We also have a big free barbecue going at the same time for all participants, which kind of helps keep them there and engaged while they're waiting for their turn to sail, because sometimes those lines kind of back up. Here are just some pictures of a recent open house. At our last event, we had over 100 participants, and you can see kind of in the top right corner, we had a sailboat, a large rowing whale boat, and small boats all out on the water at the same time. You can see this kind of aerial shot, just tons of bustling activity. But my favorite is this picture of this little girl in the middle with her decorated cookie. That was from our 2018 open house, and she is now a member of our ship. So it works, I promise. You can see that we kind of also decorate the base, we dress it up, we have the arts and crafts going, and a bunch of kids out on the water. This is our open house last year. You can tell by the masks, but it's always a ton of fun for not just the guests and participants, but there's so much energy around it that our Sea Scouts end up loving this event and having a ton of fun at it. Then finally, closing the deal is the main objective, right? We make sure that we have new member packets at the info tables that the parents are manning, and we kind of coach the parents on how to get everyone signed up. We make sure we show our appreciation to all of our scouts and our volunteers for helping out with this event. It's an exhausting weekend, but worth it. And we make sure, again, that we collect all the info from the RSVP form so that we can follow up within a couple of days of the open house. In our new member packet, we include everything someone would need: the application, med form, a new member manual that we make up that's just all of the apprentice requirements and our bylaws and any other info a brand new person would, contact sheet of the other crew members, etc. We have a parent info letter that includes where they can buy uniforms, what to expect from the schedule, how to volunteer, and our adult leaders' contact infos. A copy of the schedule and a ship shirt. So if someone signs up that weekend, they get this whole stack of things that make them feel like they're really joining a real established program. We send a follow-up email shortly after the event to everyone, even those that didn't sign up, with a copy of the schedule and some notes about how to join. And we make sure, again, that the next activity is really shortly afterwards. It's the next Saturday, and we're going out sailing, but we're also going to work on the boats and get kind of a sense of what a normal day at Sea Scouts is like. Again, we always make sure we plan for a fun activity very soon afterwards. And I keep all of the contacts for the next season. So when I set my open house for the following year, I'm copying and pasting the RSVP list into the invite list. And I am making sure that every few months or so, I check it and see if people are getting close to 14, that I invite them to join the program. And that is it. I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any questions.
One was, can you share the new member manual?
I certainly can. It is literally, I did some copying and pasting of the apprentice requirements and kind of piecemealed it into one Word document. And it's a little bit specialized for my program. So, when we talk about parts of the boats, they are parts of an 85-year-old wooden whaleboat, which might not be what everyone uses, but I'd be happy to email that out for someone to kind of custom edit for their own program.
Another question, and we'll cover this more, is the person's asked, how do you promote joining females because they're struggling with female Sea Scouts? I can say with our co-ed ship, females show up at a 3-to-1 ratio more than the guys. So that's surprising to hear that there's trouble in the community. But Tamara, can you share on promoting Sea Scouts to female members?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is my experience as well that girls kind of move in packs a little bit more. So if you can get 1 or 2 social girls to join and to bring their friends, then it ends up kind of snowballing and more join. My program is all female. However, Sea Scout ship Corsair is kind of our sister ship, and or brother ship, and they're all male. And we usually have about 2/3 to 1/3 ratio of membership between those two programs. And it shifts year to year, but I think so much of this program is about empowerment and organization and all of those good Scouty things that really does appeal to females of a certain age and their parents especially. So I think leaning into the fact that this is not an organized sport, but this is high adventure. That's what drew me into Sea Scouts, is that it was something very active and very exciting, but it wasn't soccer or basketball or track. So I don't know if that answers the question, but so we promote both programs. We promote both Corsair and Viking exactly the same. So I don't have specific pointers for girls over boys.
We'll cover all of these after the remaining material. That said, Skipper Derek Coburn in Annapolis has a good question about have you found a day of the week time that you found to be best for an open house? And then we'll move on.
Definitely Saturdays. So our open house is usually, all of our weekend activities are focused on Saturdays. We usually meet 9:30 to 4:30 every Saturday, and our open house is like 11 to 3. So it's middle of the day, and it's drop in any time during that window. It gets busy. It peaks around noon because people come for the barbecue, but I just find, a warm summer or early fall day on a Saturday is great.
Well, thank you, Tamara. We will answer the other questions, but let's hear from a parent on her experiences with getting her youth into Sea Scouts. So with that, this is from a mate off the new ship in our council named Nautilus, Ship 47. And Michelle made 2 videos for us. The first was the video that she sent to all of the parents that she knows. And then the next is the one that we recorded yesterday during an open house because they have a kayaking trip for her family right now. So I'm going to turn this off and show what she made. All right, now let's hear from Michelle on why her family joined Sea Scouts and why she signed on as a mate. So let's share what she has to say.
My name is Michelle Salcedo. I'm a mate on Ship 47, the Nautilus. I'm here today in Foster City with the Sea Scouts. I have 2 children in the Sea Scouts, Elise and Gabriel. When I first came across the ad, I was looking for a group of teens that my kids could paddleboard with, so that they didn't always have to hang out with us. What I found was more than that. They get training. They've learned how to do knots. They've interacted with other ships, and there's a whole lot more that outside of our adventures on the water, there's a whole lot more for them to learn. So I'm pretty happy with everything that we've done so far. and excited to see what else is coming forward. When talking to other parents, the values that I want to push forward with joining the Sea Scouts is, one, the adventures. Having the kids out on the water instead of at home on the computer or watching TV. They're out here in the water with other kids and they're paddling, and today they're excited about the jellyfish in the water. They're playing games out there. And the other things that I would like to emphasize is the training that they get. We paddleboard as a family, and we would dock at coves and not really know what to do with our boats. So now that our kids are Sea Scouts, they lead the water trekking, and when we dock, they tie up the boats and they knot them to trees and branches, and they've got them secured. So we're a lot more experienced about the water, and how to navigate the waters and how to safely secure our boats now that they are Sea Scouts. There's so much to say about the Sea Scouts, and sometimes I run out of words, but I have tons of pictures, and these action shots says a lot. So I used VideoLeap, an app, to create a video to show what we do and show that the excitement and the fun in the kids' eyes, and the socializing that they do. So I use that video and I send it out to parents versus trying to explain things with words that you really can't, because with adventures, it's just something you have to see.
So Michelle is a dedicated mom who is doing her best and has both of her kids in Sea Scouts now, and she helps out. And they are, we did an open house yesterday. They rented a snow cone machine, and it was a really fun Sunday to do recruiting, and we got a new member. So I have slides with all the marketing resources on the website. I just will show where they are because I feel it's more important to get to the Q&A. So if you go to seascout.org under the marketing resources tab, we have logos, we have templates. There are things that you can use for doing a social media campaign. Most of the scouts that we got to join the new ship were with geofencing on Facebook. There are other means as well. Check your school district for how to get flyers in, and there's lots of good information that you can use to be successful. But at this point, I would ask Tamara and Jason to come back online, and let's answer questions and help those who have questions about what's going on. So one question that I saw in here was the age-old, our council wants to recruit Cub Scouts. Yes, they do. This is the first time in history that the number of Scouts BSA outnumbers Cub Scouts, and we should all be very concerned about that. I recommend do multi-unit recruiting. There is no reason why you can't do an open house that is Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, and a Sea Scout ship, and you all have a rip-roaring good time, very similar to what the San Francisco Sea Scouts do.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that in my presentation, that I actually last time invited our nearest Cub Scout pack to come and recruit at our open house as well. So they had lawn signs, they had the rain gutter regatta going, and we had applications for their program as well. I don't think they actually got any members out of it, but it certainly made them excited about our event as well. And we host our local Cub pack for about 2 or 3 activities per year. So we have a 4th of July barbecue, we invite them to that. We have Fleet Week where there's an air show, we invite them to that. And we host a rain gutter regatta for them once a year as well. And it just kind of, we've gotten older siblings to join our program from that. We've gotten a lot of Cub Scout leaders asking tons of questions and excited about Sea Scouting. So that's a really long-term recruitment plan, but the council loves it. Our council absolutely loves Sea Scouting because we stay involved in their programs. We send our kids to be camp staff at waterfront staff, camps. And we stay really, really involved on a council level with other programs that kind of make us their golden children, I think.
San Francisco Sea Scouts are a model of success. So in Pac Sky, we had Cub cruises and Scout cruises and Nautical Merit Badge days, all fantastic ways to be involved with the other units in your district. And remember that we're on the same team. National really wants to break down silos and the us-them mindset. And remember that we're all Scouts and we all should be working together. So we have a question here that
can I just say one more thing? Sorry. You know, the actual question is, you know, what can we do when our council is only concentrated on recruiting Cub Scouts and it doesn't help the unit. The council doesn't help our unit at all with recruiting. So, I mean, it is really up to the units to recruit too. And I think there is a perception that the council ignores Sea Scouting. They don't really offer us any support. So, but one thing that I do make sure I do also is invite the council president, a few board members, and the Scout executive to come to our open house as well to see our program in action.
Yeah, I'd tack onto that inviting them is key, because a lot of times when you might not get as much engagement from the council as you might expect or hope for, it's because they don't know what to do to help. So if they at least get down and see the program, get to talk to you, you can speak with them, you'll have candid conversations, and then they'll feel more confident in knowing what you need.
So we have a lot of 6 questions, and let's see if we can knock these through the 4, 7. One is, do you visit in person or with some organization like a model sailboat, presentation to parents and youth? And I know some do that. Jason, Tamara, do you guys go out and do pitches to specific groups to try to recruit?
Yeah, I'll take that one. You know, in the rank of ordinary, there's actually a requirement that your youth that's seeking the rank of ordinary has to do a presentation to a public group. And if they're working on quartermaster, that public group has to be a adult group. So leverage those Scouts that are part of your program today to pitch the program. Pitch, you know, using your ordinaries, pitch to youth. You could go to local Boy Scout units. You could go to local STEM courses and other things to recruit or pitch the program. And then for the parent focused ones, you could look at local yacht clubs and, you know, other clubs that are nautical in focus.
Well said. We have a question here from someone wanting examples of different chartered organizations. There are a lot. So Rotary clubs work, churches work, yacht clubs work, rowing clubs work, Coast Guard auxiliary flotillas. Many of them are extremely supportive and happy to charter a unit. It really depends on the size of their flotilla and their bandwidth. The traditional charter partners are just as great to be a charter partner for a Sea Scout. Our new ship's charter partners, the Rotary Club, our charter partner rep owns the local newspaper. Getting little blurbs in about what we're doing is really easy. So don't think it has to be nautical, but nautical really does help. And it's a great place to also find other volunteers. And okay, here's a district executive in the Mayflower Council in Massachusetts. They have 2 small Sea Scout ships in their council. What do you think the local council can do to support these ships' recruiting efforts? Tamara, would you like to help Aaron?
Good question. I think, you know, helping get the word out. We have our district has a Facebook page, and anytime they post about an activity, it gets a lot of interest, or just talking about it in district roundtable meetings. I will say, you know, the perception that we're trying to poach Boy Scout members is an issue that every ship faces, I think. but we have had many dual registered scouts and boys, the Sea Scouts and Boy Scouts. You know, I know Jason made Eagle while in Sea Scouts too, for example. And I've had many guys in my program do that. So I think highlighting that it's a great program for older kids to stay engaged as a retention tool is good to hear from a Scout professional, because we can say it all we want and it still sounds like poaching. But if a Scout professional says it, it sounds true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I'd love to add on to that, Tamara, that, you know, in my Boy Scout troop growing up, once I turned 13, 14, I was starting to get a little more disinterested because my troop was focused on the younger youth. And I would have, if I didn't know about Sea Scouts and didn't grow up around Sea Scouts, I would have easily walked away from scouting. It was not as interesting to me anymore. I felt like I had, you know, achieved or hit the peak and there wasn't anything else to achieve. And so Sea Scouting was a continuation of scouting for me. And it, ironically, my path to Eagle taught me a ton of things that I still call upon today. But ironically, had I walked away, I would have missed a ton of education that I got through Sea Scouting and my leadership there, because those teenage years are really difficult to work through. I also want to add on to the council piece that, you know, if there's additional content, Aaron, that your council is putting out for Boy Scout units or Cub Scout units, see if that content can also be leveraged to pitch for Sea Scout units. Or if there's mailers going out or email campaigns going out talking about those programs, see if you can get some Sea Scout content in there too.
Absolutely. Council newsletters can be a great way to say, new Sea Scout ship, kayaking, they're going sailing, pick venture. Many Sea Scouts have found out about a ship that way. So a lot there. And on the new ship comment, Mitchell is working on starting a new ship. They need 2 more youth. What's the best way to go about recruiting them? All of the above. So I'm not sure if you're a professional or a volunteer, but if you're a BSA professional, announcing it in the newsletter, posting on the council Facebook page, that works. The calling a scout master, saying like, you have 14-year-olds who are kind of on the edge, find a way that they can dual register, be part of both units. So there are a lot of ways to try to cross the finish line.
I think what Mitchell is alluding to is the rule that you need at least 2 members who are not dual registered with, or who have the ship listed as their primary unit. So you could have all of the members dual registered, I think, but they have to list the ship as a primary unit. But I think Mitchell might be right that at least two need to be not registered to any other units. Schools, 100% schools. And I think, you know, one thing I didn't mention earlier, but I often kind of say is that I sort of trick kids into joining Sea Scouts sometimes too. Like I know this sounds bad, but you know, I call it a sailing club. I call it a boating club or a woodworking club, or I call it 7 different things, and it's going to land with someone. Many people are joining because it's scouting. Many people are joining because it's sailing or high adventure or whatever. And so if you're having a hard time finding non-scouts, try promoting it from a different angle and calling it a boating club, and see if that gets some different interest.
Yeah, many ways for success. Final question. Would you say having a crew and ship together to more items to do is a good thing? And that's location dependent. There are places in the Midwest where they've been very successful at doing that model. Others, less so. So it really depends on the nature of the program, how well the units are coordinating and working together. Like if there are 2 completely different units doing diametric opposed things that overlap, that won't work. If everyone's on the same page and you have like summer and winter activities, it can be really successful and a lot of fun. So you have to coordinate. So that's the answer there. So with that, we have answered all the live questions that we have. Let's take one last look at chat. And so, yes, there's a lot there. With any Sea Scout event, we have lots of great chat. We should do one of these again as a roundtable so we can actually have a discussion with folks. That way we don't have to try doing it through chat, because a lot of you are asking good questions or sharing stories. And we can do this as an open forum on another night. To close things off, because we do have I have another meeting, I want to talk about future webinars real quick. There are lots of ways that we can try to help local units, and we need to know. So what can we do? What can we offer to help you? So would you like to see training on Scout Book? Would you like to see training on using Invitation Application Manager? Would you like to see best practices on fundraising? So vessel management, whether it's all the things that go into taking care of a boat or stand-up paddle boards. Like I grew up on the Griffin, 65-foot, 90-ton boat. I'm starting small boat units where we have inflatable stand-up paddle boards, much easier to store because not everyone can have a 65-foot boat. So thinking in terms of what's the easiest way to support a new unit, that could be in Colorado or Nebraska, and get youth on the water. So there's a lot that can go into about boats and boat safety and managing social media campaigns. So there's lots of material here that we want to focus on. So yes, so I'm going to let people keep typing answers and to the poll here, and yes, and all right, let's end the poll and we can see all the results. And this will be helpful for us for planning future ones. Scout Book training, 37%. Application and Invitation Manager, 41%. Fundraising, 54%. Boats do require money. Vessel management, 41%. Boat safety, 22%. Integrated social media campaign, 67%. We're going to need some of our TikTok mavens to help with that. And planning a nautical merit badge day, 63%. And 41% for doing a program for Cub Scout packs. So really neat to see all of this interaction. And again, we're saving the chat, so we'll go through this and make sure that we've captured everything that can be actionable so we can plan a future activity. We want to get to doing these on a more regular basis and get to hear from everyone. So with that, thank you all for your time. Commodore Farrell, thank you for your time this evening. And to everyone, thank you for being a volunteer or professional. We really appreciate all what you do to help youth have a safe place to go. So with that, everyone, take care and good night.